Okay, let's go, everybody. Let's do the thing. Let's do the thing that we really don't want to do today, do we? Oh boy. Not that I don't want to be here, but I don't think any of us want to be here with this being the subject matter. So, let's just start right off the bat. All it took was all I did was take a day off. I take one day off, and are you kidding me, right? Okay, blow up this chat so I can see. Hey, Hungry. Yeah, no Barkov from practice. Yep. Pente, how you doing, bud? Pente, yeah, the rest. Yeah, it's oh boy. There's I don't want to go well, I mean, I guess we will. Um I don't want to like go too deep personally into like how we can fix it all if he's gone for the whole season, including playoffs. But oh boy. Yeah, Hungry. I saw that according to TSN, it doesn't look good. Um, Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. And I could just be trying to vomit a rainbow, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here. But if it was a complete ACL tear, I would kind of think maybe they would not that they wouldn't get an MRI, but like I believe ACL is one of those where if you tear that, like you can tell with just a couple of stability tests. So it's possible that the need for an MRI could actually be a good thing, or am I just pissing in the wind? Strafasi, Roslovic, yeah, I started to look. Pente, Zito will work things out. Exactly. Well, we no longer have the best third line in hockey. Now we have a good second line. So the practice lines were Bennett, Verhage, Reinhardt, and they just took that whole third line, Lundell, Lusteron, and Marchand, and made it the second line. And then the third line is The third line is Rodriguez with Samoskevich and Boquist. And while I believe that line can do it ain't Lundell, Lusteron, and Marchand. Let's be honest. Now, on a normal team, on a normal mid team in the NHL, Rodriguez with Samoskevich and Boquist is perfectly fine. On a team that's trying to win a Stanley Cup, and So, but obviously those are the guys on the roster that we have right now. And we'll just have to wait and see what the whole thing entails. Obviously, there's two very different reactions if it's 6 months versus the whole season and the playoffs, right? Hey, Cuban, thank you, buddy. Malkin or Crosby to the Cats. Pente says Crosby all day, every day. My question about Crosby, though, is how much time is left on this contract? You see, that's the situation is, yeah, we could – how many years is left on this contract? To me, we only can really go get a guy that's got – that this is the last year. Go get McDavid. Go get McDavid and then just don't sign him and let him go somewhere else next year. I'm kidding. But boy, wouldn't that piss off the league? Benji says, I got to admit, Malkin next to Sasha and Reinhardt, you'd like to see it. Well, we got to make sure Sasha's good, right? Crosby has 2 more years. Right, so the thing is that, yeah, we could get somebody that could fit under the cap if Barkov's out. But then next year when he comes back, the cap's only supposed to go up like 8-9 million. So we can't put ourselves into a situation where we'd be having to, move somebody again. We're already in that situation, although we may not be. It's what a mess. But we got 2 cups. Hey, Goat Slayer. He says, of all the people to happen to and for what it appeared to be a light practice is so disheartening. Hope the best for Barkov, and he's earned being my favorite Panther. Speedy recovery. Yeah. So I started doing a little bit of research this morning on guys that can play center or right wing that are on the last year of their contracts this season. Now, there were a couple names there, but most of them were on playoff contending teams, right? Like Ovechkin's not going anywhere. There was one guy, I think Schmaltz, that plays for Utah, but he's a little bit too small. So to me, if he's out, what complicates things, like I said yesterday, is with Nosek being out, because somebody that maybe could have taken over at 3C and been adequate now needs to be at 4C because Nosek is out. Pentas says 2 cups is 2 cups. That's special. Now let the big boys rest a bit. We may be in that. We may be there. We may be there. It's tough when you see a non-contact injury. Those are the ones that, start to talk about, the number of games being played and everything like that. And is he 30 now? Or I think he was turning 30 or whatever. So there's still ways that this team, look, we're still a playoff team. Okay. A top 6 of Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Lundell, Luosterainen, and Marchand. We're still obviously a playoff team. Pendy says, and like I said earlier, past year, too many games. Right. Fossey, you think Gregor can center the 4th line? Baxter says, glass half full, thought knee sprain. I think at this point, I don't know. I don't want to say, because like I said, we saw Barkov need help get off the ice last year, and we thought, oh, God. And then he was okay. Zachary, it's from where, though? If unless it's coming from the Panthers, let me open up my Twitter because that's where I've been watching things anyway. Let me see. So that's Slater saying it. Well, it missed the entire season, but is that the regular season or is that the entire playoffs? And how does Andy Slater know? I mean, I know I don't know, man. Until I see it from the Panthers, you know what I mean? Until I see it from the Panthers myself, come back to the chat. Colin, yeah. Lundell to 1C. That's not what they've done, Ices. So today at practice, it was Bennett, Hart, Verhaeghe, and then they just moved that entire 3rd line up to the 2nd line and just made Lundell, Luosterainen, and Marchand the 2nd line. Actually, it's typical. Some people are like out for the season and some say no timeline yet. Hey, Colin. I'm in here. I mean, I know I see what Slater's saying, but I'm just looking at Twitter here real quick to see. I mean, if he was supposed to have an MRI today Is Slater just expanding on what said earlier? So George Richards just said Sasha Barkov having surgery on his right knee. No for a return, but it does not sound good. So, I mean, this may be a situation, to be honest, if they don't know, yeah, he's having surgery right now. Now, let's put a happy spin on this. If he's having surgery right now, the only reason to have it so immediate is because they think there's a possibility pending the surgery that he may be able to come back for the playoffs. That's my take, and I'm sticking to it. To me, the only reason to have the surgery like right now immediately is they're trying to count days and hours, because an ACL is 7 to 9 months, if that's what we're dealing with. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April. That's 7. So to me, it feels like they want to do it as quickly as possible. Vincent, I didn't say I specifically told you yesterday, Vincent, that the puppets didn't tell me that. Maybe clean out the ear wax. I specifically made the video because the puppets were not telling me it's only 2 weeks. Huh? You need new headphones, Vincent. So it's really going to put us in a position, because if that's the situation, if it's an ACL, which is the only thing that makes sense for him to have surgery right now, today. So now it might be my fault for taking the day off, Vincent. That's fine. And Corey took the words right out of my mouth. Any trades are going to complicate things when the players return. So to me, I'm going to tell you right now, the way I see it is that lineup that we just put on the ice for practice in terms of the top 9 is probably it until we get close to the trade deadline and they have an idea if Barkov is going to be back or not. Bennett, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Lundell, Lustenrein, Marchand, Rodriguez, Samoskevich, and Boqvist. To me, that seems like that's going to be the 9 until they find out if Barkov's coming back or not. Because you can't go get a guy with his cap space for the playoffs if you think he's coming back. So, that's probably not a cup-winning team. Do I think we're still a top 3 team in the division? Yeah. Now, what could complicate that is guys are going to have to step up and exert extra energy, and that's going to be difficult. But in terms of knowing if he's going to be back for the playoffs or not, I could end up wrong. But the way I feel is like they're having that surgery right now because they could be feeling like, hey, if you have it now as opposed to 2 weeks from now, usually you let the swelling go down and stuff like that. Yeah, Pomo said hopefully they'll have an update later today. So look, I'm thinking about the moves that we made and the center depth, and like I said, no sick being out complicates things a little bit. I know we've got some guys that can probably fill in But I think now with what is so crazy, man. It's so crazy because this whole time we've been saying it, Rodriguez and Boquist got to go unless somebody else gets hurt. And we didn't want to talk about somebody else getting hurt because that means somebody else gets hurt. So on one hand, while this is a massive problem, you don't have to move on from Rodriguez or Boquist. So Fry says our third cup hopes are gone. To be honest, I don't know. I can't get there. I don't see any reason why, even without Barkov, that this team can't get back to the Stanley Cup final. I don't see the other team out there in the East that was so close to beating us that and let's also look at it like if we know Barkov is going to be gone for the full playoffs, Zito's going to make moves. There's going to be guys that come in, and we don't know who those players will be. We don't know. We may use that money to upgrade the defense. We may use that money to upgrade the bottom pair on defense. You know what I'm saying? Don't completely leave out that possibility. Maybe, try to eke out a few more points out of the blue line. Real says, if Bark goes out for the season, we can afford Crosby. But then what about next year? This is the thing. Hey, Simon, how we doing, bud? Well, let's say we don't know right now, Simon. That's for sure. Jishuk said, look how good we did with a broken Kachuk last year. Imagine him coming back prime. Right. And I mean, let's just breathe. Just breathe for just a half a second. And just think about what we know about our players. Okay. Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, come on. How many teams would love to have that as their top line? Okay. Forget for a moment what Barkov brings, and let's just think for a moment about, okay, what's going to be on the ice? Okay? All right. So Bennett with Reinhart and Verhaeghe, fine. For first line, that is the first line you can win a cup with. Lundell, Luosterainen, and Marchand. Now, the only question there at the for us is Marchand at that age going to have the energy, and can he continue? Because Luosterainen is going to have to put the puck in the back of the net a little bit now, right? And Lundell. And we saw that Marchand brought out an offensive game with those two last year. And we've always known that having that as a third line has been a massive advantage. But as a second line, that still to me is a top six that you don't look at that top six and say they can't make it to the Stanley Cup final, in my opinion. And so now you get to the third line, and that's to me where the biggest issue is going to be. And I think we've always known that, because if you lose Barkov, you put Lundell up, and now we've got Rodriguez, Samoskevich, and Boquist. And I don't know who's going to – Samoskevich is going to have to put the puck in the back of the net. Rodriguez can score, but he's not prolific. Rodriguez and Boquist are kind of the same-ish in the sense of disruptors. They're going to use their energy, and they're going to disrupt things and hopefully put Samoskevich in a position to score some goals. And what I will say is that Samoskevich looked pretty good in the top six last year. Moving him down to a third line against lesser competition could kind of give us an advantage. Not the same advantage as we had with Lundell on the third line, but still, you have to look at what we have. So I think when you look at it in totality and the competition that we're going to be up against in the Eastern Conference, don't worry about the Western. Don't look at the Western Conference right now, because we don't know who would be playing. Okay? But in terms of the Eastern Conference, I still I don't look at any of the other teams and go, oh, well, now they can beat us for sure. I just don't. You know what I mean? And so with that as the backdrop, when they find out for sure whether if Barkov's not coming back for the playoffs, we've got some money that we can use, but we have to be wise with it because we don't want to put ourselves in a position next year where we got to start getting rid of guys. But what's interesting about this is that if he's out for the entirety, it opens up a possibility for a guy like Rodriguez, who was here for 2 cups and was basically a sure thing to get traded if nobody got hurt. And sometimes when those situations happen and a guy is kind of given a second lease on life, if you will, you know, I can't sit here and look at the roster and convince myself who. Does this make sure that Toronto's going to beat us? No. Tampa? No. Vasilevsky, there's questions there right now with what's going on with him. Ottawa, that'd be interesting. Montreal, it could be interesting. I mean, it definitely closes the gap. With Barkov, it's almost a slam dunk that we should win the conference as long as we're healthy. Without him, definitely closes the gap, and I don't think it takes us out of the conversation. I see a super chat here. Hold on a second. I know I'm missing a lot of chat, but hey, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, bud. He says we're fruit. No barking, no chucking, no freedom, no late nights. When I go to the bathroom, she's still there. Frank is still drunk. When I go outside to have a drink in the stogie, she's there in my dreams and nightmares. Sorry, Frank. Oh, wait, that's just me. Dietrich, yeah, we can keep Rodriguez now. Pente's right. We have a lot of good center. Don't forget Luosterainen's a center as well. Now, they've moved that whole line up. Look, Rodriguez, Samoskevich, Boquist is an adequate third line in the NHL. Any other team that's not trying to win a third cup in a row, most teams will be like, all right, I'll take that and see what I can do with it. Most, not all. If you're going to try to compete with the teams from the Western Conference and win another cup, we will need to upgrade that third line somewhere in there. Probably, looking at, you have to see how does Rodriguez do in the face-off circle? That's going to be a big thing, okay? Because, Lundell's pretty damn good at that. We have to see how Rodriguez does there. Samoskevich, he's got to put the puck in the back of the net. And then we need Jesper Boquist to be on his game. But, I mean, stranger things have happened. Right, exactly, Pente. Reinhart can play center, Lundell, E2, Bennett. Yeah. Dietrich. We're under the cap with the new rules. Yeah. We were under the cap when they put Tkachuk on LTIR. But now, even when Tkachuk comes back, if Barkov's out, we're still good. Shafasi, I've seen that mentioned about Roslovic. I think Zito is going to wait this out and be very targeted with what we do, because we just don't know how how the situations are going to present themselves. Is Luosterainen going to be able to be a viable left wing second line? He's not played in the top 6. Okay. We don't know. We think we know and we have confidence, but we don't know about that spot. Okay. Samoskevich, again, Boquist, again, Rodriguez, again, but they're very different questions. And so I don't think we're going to make any moves until we've identified, okay, this is where we have a problem and this is where we don't. And we've got all these guys on PTOs here, and you may see some of these guys stick around because we're going to have cap space. And, now you've got no Barkov and no Nosek. You've got your 1 and 4 centers from last year going to be out. But I just don't feel like I can panic on this. I know what Barkov brings. I know the type of player he is. But at the same point, we don't know what this team looks like without him for the most part, in terms of, how is Lundell going to up his game, right? We still haven't had, and we won't until Tkachuk comes back, we still haven't had regular season at all with Marchand and Tkachuk on the same line. And don't forget, Tkachuk is going to come back, okay? Now, when Chucky comes back, if that top 6 is working, where are you going to put him? You follow what I'm saying? You don't want to break up Lundell, Luostarinen, and Marchand. I think we would mostly agree there, right? So when Tkachuk does come back, if Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe is working, and you don't want to mess up Lundell, Luostarinen, and Marchand, why would you put Tkachuk there if Marchand's doing well? You follow what I'm saying? So with that, okay, are you going to put Tkachuk on that third line? We need a better. We need Rodriguez, Tkachuk, Samoskevich. Is that viable? You follow what I'm saying? There's going to be some guys playing on second line, third line that it's not going to matter what number you call the lines. I think it's about who's going to be in the top 9. So that's another thing to throw into the mix there, because when Chucky comes back, you can tell by Maurice's reaction here. He doesn't want to break up Lundell, Luostarinen, and Marchand. How could you, right? And I mean, are you going to move? You're not going to put Chucky up top with Bennett and Verhaeghe and then put Reinhart on the third line. I think you'd be more likely to put Chucky on that third line and then find a viable 2C to put at 3C and go with that new guy at 3C with Samoskevich and Tkachuk. You could end up, you still got Rodriguez. So we have so much depth and so much talent. And look, everything we've done has been predicated. A lot of what we do has been predicated on how special Barkov is. And that's true. That's fine. That's the way it should be. But we have a lot of play. We got guys. We got Sam Reinhart that on anybody else's team would be the best guy, would be the best player on the team. And he's just not on our, you know what I mean? Bennett is fully capable of being a 1C. Lundell is at least capable of being a top 2C. So I can't panic. I can't panic right now. Round 1 versus Lightning again. You think I don't know if the Leafs. I'm just reading the chat here real quick. Now, that's one thing Icy is saying. I agree with you when I worry about the team chemistry with Barkov being out. I would be concerned about that somewhat, but I think when Chucky comes back, Chucky's such a vocal leader that I kind of feel like he'll step things up a little bit. This is why it's big that Ekblad stayed too. You know what I mean? And look, it may very well come down to some of these guys don't want to be the reason why we don't three-peat. You know what I mean? When you've won your 2 cups in a row, it might be human to think motivation might start to become a little bit of a factor. You know what I mean? And like I said in last night's videos, if this is the challenge, if there's any group of guys that might kind of look around the room and be like, you know what? Why do we have to be counted out now? The rest of these guys are, we got a lot of top flight players that might take it personally. That, hey man, we can still win. Card Obvious says, assuming knee surgery, he shouldn't try to rush back for the playoffs. Well, I guess it just depends. I think they want to get into his knee and see what it is instead of waiting for an MRI. You get in there, you fix it. I think we'll know more. Of course, obviously, we'll know more after the surgery. But the fact that they're just doing it like this, to me, that tells me that they have a feeling that there's still a possibility that he could come back during the playoffs. That's my unofficial, uneducated opinion. No, Vincent. No Samoskevich for Crosby. There you go, Jameson. The first cup was for Ellie. The second one was Fluffy. The third will be for Barkov. Exactly. Appreciate that, Pente. Yeah, I mean, we got 2 cups, right? I don't want to sound like I'm happy it happened, but as a lot of you, as you get older, sometimes you're happy for the challenges that present. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, all right, let's do this. Let's get through this. And that's just kind of how I feel about it right now. As Frost says, who's our 4th line draw? Well, that's a good question. So right now, I think today was Cunnin with Gregor and Greer. I don't think Gadjevich is hurt or anything. But some of these guys now that are on PTOs, I think they're going to stick around. I think you're going to see Mott stick around. I think Gregor's on a PTO. I think Cunnin, Mott, and Gregor will make the team simply because we have the space at this point. I don't know how that'll work later on. We just can't recklessly throw around money. But we're definitely in the market for anybody who would like to come into the bottom 6 and make a significant difference. Because I still feel like we have a Stanley Cup worthy top 6. But now the bottom 6, our depth is going to be, you take Lundell, Lusteron, and Marchand out of the bottom 6, we need some guys to step up. Jameson, it's confusing, man. I'll be honest with you, because there's like 3.8. Oh, you know what? This is my fault. Vincent's correct. It's my fault. I'm the dumbass. If you go back, there's a post on this channel that barely anybody saw. I don't believe I did this. Yeah, it's my fault. There's a post on the channel where I asked, I understand about the $3.8 million in cap space that you get as a maximum if somebody is on LTIR, but my dumb ass, is that cumulative or per player? What happens if somebody else gets hurt? I should probably retire. Colin says, what's the best options to make an upgrade at? Could we make a call to Pittsburgh? No, I don't think that'll happen. Kay says, I'm being optimistic. They cannot win a 3rd cup without the best 2-way forward to ever play the game. I mean, we can agree to disagree, right? I can't sit here today not knowing how long he's going to be out and not knowing what Zito's going to do. I can't sit here and say that it's over. We've got a whole last season to play, and we don't know how guys are going to respond. You know what I mean? We just don't know. But I completely understand your POV case. I mean, I don't blame anybody for that POV at all. Hungry says Alex Tuck makes 4.7 last year of contract with Buffalo, scored 67 points last season. Zito can rip him off once more. And that's really, well, what I can tell you, Matthew, is the puppets did not tell me. In the video I made last night, I specifically made the video because the puppets were not telling me it's only 2 weeks. My gut, unfortunately, was telling me something else. Let's see. Free agent. let's just look at here. I looked this up, and why is my hold on a second. I've been doing this all off of Wi-Fi this whole time. That's wild. How's the picture? The picture's been fine. There we go. Okay. So free agents, forwards. So if you look up here, let me share the screen here. Hold on a second. This is what I was looking at a little bit earlier today. I mean, it's a little bit, preemptive, but if you look at guys that are on the last year of their contract, you're not getting McDavid, Panarin, Eichel, Ovechkin. Kaprizov wants too much money. Montreal's not giving up Lane. Jason Robertson, Dallas probably not fixing to get rid of him. Kyle Connor and Winnipeg. See, these are all competitors. And then you get, Kevin Hayes is not really what we're looking for. Boy, look at that amount of money he's making. You got Anders Lee, Nietzsche's, but he's in Colorado, a contender. They're not moving guys away. There's Malkin. And then this was the first guy that I saw, Schmaltz, who's on a team that's probably not going to win, that I liked his salary. But when I read about him, he does put the puck in the back of the net. He's a versatile player, but at the same point, not very physical, kind of gets knocked off the puck a little bit. And then you get into Zegras, Schwartz, Kempe. Wenberg's available. Stenlund would be available. But do any of these guys, you start getting into a Mason Marchment, we'll bring him in for a little bit of physicality. I don't know. You start getting into a situation where it's like when you look at the names that could possibly be available, it's like how much of an upgrade, right? Over, like if you're looking for a 3C, the problem with getting Sidney Crosby, let's just talk about this now because I know that there's a lot of people that are interested that way. Okay. Sidney Crosby's contract, he's got this year and next year left. Okay. $8.7 million. So if you made a move for Crosby, all right. Yeah, if Barkov's out for the whole duration, you can make a move for Crosby. I don't know what we're going to have to give up for him, like a 2040 first-round pick. I don't know. The problem that you have is next season, because that 8,700 or 8.7 million is about what the cap is supposed to go up next year. So the only way that you're affording Crosby next year is either Bobrovsky's going to take a massive pay cut, or you're going to have to move somebody. We'd be right back in that position again. We'd have to move somebody. I suppose if Pittsburgh was willing, let's talk about this because I'm thinking about it. If Pittsburgh was willing to take some of his salary, right? If they were willing to eat some of that, and we say got it down to where we were only paying him 6.5, and then you could get Bob to take 8, we might actually be able to make it work. But then, of course, you get in the next season. Well, where are you going to put him, right? What are you going to do? Barkov, Crosby, Bennett, Lundell's at 4C. You see what I'm saying? Like, where would you put him next year? And I know that that's a problem down the road. And of course, we don't even know if Pittsburgh would do this. I suppose if you got them to take some of his salary, it could maybe work. But then we'd still be in a situation next year where, you'd have Barkov, Crosby, Bennett, Lundell. Like somebody's going to have to play wing. Lundell could probably play wing, right? So Crosby at 3C because he's getting a little bit old. You know what I mean? Like a third line of Crosby with Samoskevich and Lundell. Give us 4 cups in a row. But what would we have to give up for him? You know what I mean? So what's Cody saying? Let me stop sharing that. What about Robertson? Well, now Robertson, let me look at that again here. I just leave the glasses on at this point. Robertson's making it's just this year. Now, if you wanted to make a move, he's an RFA. Robertson's still, that's wild. It's what it says here. He's still an RFA at 27. So with that being the case, Dallas, I mean, I don't even know if we would have the assets for what Dallas would ask for him. And then we'd basically be giving away those assets for just this year, because you're not going to, if he's making 7.7 or 7.8 basically now, you know, how much is he going to get paid? He's going to be looking at least 9, maybe 10. And again, we're just not going to have that kind of money. So we'd be giving up all those assets for just this year. It just doesn't sound like a Zito move. You know what I mean? Let me come back to the chat here. Petraro, yeah, he's doing the surgery right now. Ariel says Crosby and Marchand on the same line, right? Cody says we need Crosby for 1 year. Just make a deal. We take him this year and send him back next year, and then we owe them. I doubt the league would approve that trade, though, right? The league would probably be like, yeah, no. It's not a bad suggestion, but they probably somehow wouldn't allow that. Petrov says they said there's a possibility of him coming back in more than 3 months. Where'd you hear that, buddy? Let me go back to Twitter and see if I can find something here. Because that's what it's, to me, it kind of feels like. So, yeah, everybody is reporting the same thing over and over again. Everybody's just reporting the same thing over and over again. If he's in the middle of surgery right now, now this guy says Paul Maurice announced Barkov is in. Oh, Paul Maurice announced Barkov is in surgery now. So, okay, so here's Katie Engelson. Here's somebody that knows. Per head coach Paul Maurice, Florida Panthers captain Alexander Barkov is currently undergoing surgery, right knee injury. Maurice says they will hopefully have a detailed update later today, which means they don't know. That's where we are right now. I mean, to me, that's the only information I'm listening to is something coming from the Panthers or the Panthers reporting. So to me, it feels like they're going to go in there, take a look, and the doctors will tell them no or yeah, maybe 6 months, maybe 7 months. And to me, anything we hear outside of Maurice or Zito or the Panthers, I'm not paying attention to, because if you go to Twitter, there's everybody saying, oh my God, he's out for the year, he's out for the year. But nobody has any real information. They're just retweeting the same sources. Right, yeah, they said on Puck Empire out for the season. Nobody's really being specific about it, because exactly what Craig says. Depends on the extent of the injury, right? So now we'll have to sit and wait, right? Now we wait. They should know after the surgery what the situation is. Certainly, we don't want him rushing back and re-injuring himself and all of that. So if it is an ACL, they say 7 to 9 months. I know Chucky was going, I guess, to Germany and getting the stem cell treatments and all of that. So to me, it's just going to be up to what the doctors say. and then Zito will govern himself accordingly. CBA says they know they wouldn't go in without a vision of what they're doing. Oh, sure. I mean, they know what the injury is, but probably normally they would wait for swelling to go down and all of that and get more images. That was what we heard yesterday. What we heard yesterday was that, in fact, one of these reporters that is telling us he's in surgery now, yesterday said he was going to get more imaging done this afternoon. So when Maurice or Zito says it, that's what I'll believe. And I trust Zito to figure it out. Obviously, it's a massive blow, but this might be a little bit hyperbolic, but Zito kind of owes some of these players. He owes it to the guys, Marchand, Ekblad, Bennett, Lundell, who else that took less money, right? Because they wanted to keep it all together. He owes them going out and trying to find a way to fix this as much as possible. Now, the Crosby thing, like we just talked about, I think is a possibility they could make that work pending what Pittsburgh wants. Because you know damn well if you're Pittsburgh and you see the phone ring, you're just going to pick it up and be like, Mackie Samoskevich, like you're not even saying hello. Yeah, thank you, Real Forsling. Yeah. The Penguins aren't even going to answer the phone. They're just going to have their voicemail. They're just going to change their voicemail to be like, if you're calling about Sidney Crosby, talk to Mackie Samoskevich. Like that because we already dished Sordiff. What are they going to do? Take Devine and some picks? No, everybody sees what Samoskevich is going to be. And for a team that's trying to rebuild. And so, right, I know you guys are saying Devine, and of course that would make Trey really happy. But would they take that? And of course, then you have to wonder, would Crosby even want to do it? If Crosby had never won a cup, right? Hungry says Benning. Benning's looked good, even though he's small. He's looked pretty decent. So yeah, all right. So then let's extrapolate that. If Pittsburgh said Benning and Devine and like a first in like 2 decades when we finally have a first, do you do it? And let's just rewind a little bit and look at what the lineup is right now. Let's just look at the lineup right now. Bennett, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Lundell, Luostarinen, Marchand. You got Rodriguez at 3C, and you're going to have Chucky coming back. Rodriguez, Samoskevich, and Boqvist. If that's your third line, does the difference between that third line and a third line of, hypothetically speaking, Crosby with Tkachuk and Samoskevich, or if you made that the second line and you move Lundell back to the third line, is that the difference between this team winning a cup or not? Hold on a second. Yeah, kid?
Can I have you for a minute so I can say what I need to say without it being...
Sure. Bear with me. I'll be right back in less than 1 minute.
Yeah.
Don't let Trey run the stream. He'll trade Samoskevich. All right. I got my virus calling while I'm doing this. So what's going on? All right. not. I'm not doing it right now.
All right, then.
Okay, I'm not doing it. I got so many other things I'm doing and planning for this weekend. I can't change my schedule.
All right, then.
Okay.
I'll tell her.
Yeah, what?
She said she was gonna buy a little later.
All right.
Then.
Okay. All right. I love you.
All
So
right.
are you still going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I love
I
you.
love you too.
Okay. All right. Sorry, that was Zito calling me, asking me if he could trade Sam Miskevich. I said, hell no. Zero. I've seen that several times in comments. He says, I hope the Panthers aren't pulling a fast stunt trying to put Barkov on LTIR. The LTIR rules no longer would even make a difference. That LTIR loophole has already been closed, so there's nothing to do there. When playoffs start, the Panthers have to be compliant. So there's no longer a benefit to keeping guys on LTIR for the full season, stacking up with players, and then bringing them back for the playoffs. They've already closed that loophole. JC says McDavid can tell Edmonton he's not re-signing, request to trade to Florida for a cup chase. I mean, it's not out of the world, right? So Sleepy Ape says we have to play money ball. We can't afford to replace Barkov and Chucky. We need to replace them in the aggregate. Well, remember, Chucky's coming back, right? Chucky's coming back. So to me, if it ends up being where he's out all the way through into the playoffs, depending on how the forwards that, are on that third line do, if you can add a top-notch center to be at 3C, right? Like Crosby at 3C would certainly give us the same type of advantage we had with Lundell. You know what I mean? I don't think you would be putting Crosby up top. I don't think you would be putting Crosby up top because you've got too much chemistry there already. You've got Bennett with Verhaeghe and Reinhart and Lundell, Lusteron, and Marchand. We're going to keep that one together as much as we can. And so if you did get Crosby, you'd getting him for the playoffs. So at that point, you would have Crosby with Tkachuk and Sam Miskevich, if that's the way it went. But like I said earlier, a lot of it's just going to depend upon how those guys respond. So, it's going to be a different role now for some of these guys. So, and it changes things. Obviously, having Lusteroinen on the second line left instead of Sam Miskevich, that certainly is going to change some things. And that's the other thing. Like I said, a lot of what we do has been predicated on how great Barkov is, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean we don't have enough talent to make some adjustments and maybe, play a little bit of a different way if we had to. Maurice has been coaching for about 100 years. He's seen it all. And, you might have to, you're just going to have to play to some new strengths. Risky. I know, right? Jameson, the banner night is going to be so weird without Barkov and Chucky. I know. Yeah, I wonder if they'll at least be able to be. Well, we know. I mean, if Barkov's having the surgery now, just wondering if they'd even be able to be out there on crutches or whatever. Not like if they had the carpet there or whatever. And Lil J, that's the other question, is that would Crosby even leave? Would he leave the Pens? Like I said, I think if he hadn't won a cup, he might chase. But I don't know. I'm sure they're asking. I mean, I'm not saying that Pittsburgh's management is asking him, but I'm sure his friends and family are like, hey, you know what I mean? Good question from Strafasi. Who will run our power play now? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been a huge fan of the speed at which Barkov runs the power play. And that's not, I've brought that up many times. Now, without Barkov and Tkachuk, you're going to have Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe. You're going to have Ekblad out there. We might go with two defensemen. You might just go Bennett, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Ekblad, and Jones as your first unit. I hope they don't have to exhaust Forsling by giving him power play time. Balinskis didn't do a bad job, but I'm not saying he'd be running it. But in terms of playing the Barkov position, we're going to have to make some adjustments to the power play. You know what I mean? Especially without Barkov and Tkachuk. That's a good question. Schrodinger, we don't know. Nobody knows right now in terms of if it's the season or the playoffs. Lil J says, who carries the cup out thin last year on banner night? It was Barkov that carried it. I'm going to say Ekblad. I would say Ekblad since he's the longest tenured guy that's going to be out there. That would be my guess. Okay, Corey Perry will make the finals. Real says Marchand left the Bruins and he won a cup before. That's true, but remember there were complications with him needing a contract, right? So with Crosby, it's a little bit different. Crosby kind of already signed the contract that showed he wanted to stay at the end here, where Marchand didn't. You know what I mean? I think I got a super here. Hey, MJ, thank you, bud. Thank you, MJ. He says, happy Friday, Jaws. Last Friday of September, closing out the month with nice weather. Can you send some of that here? How about that Seahawks-Cardinals game last night? Headlines in a moment. I think you know what I'm going to say. Is there something going on, MJ? Is there something? I have no idea what you're talking about, MJ. Nothing at all. Not a chance that I know anything. I mean, this is the first time in years I can remember waking up in the morning and going, oh, God, because we've been winning for so long. And like all of the injury news that we've been getting over the last few years has been, we dodged a bullet. I woke up this morning and it's just like, oh crap, I don't feel good about this. You know what I mean? Because that wasn't somebody running into the boards. That was just his knee saying, nope. You know what I mean? And like somebody had said earlier, like it could have possibly been a pre-existing thing. You know, the body gets stressed and you don't know it. And then you move just that right, perfect ergonomic way, and then boom, there, you know what I mean? It pops on you. Adonis, yeah, you talk about Forsling, one of the best skaters in the league with his passing and playmaking could be improved upon. Yeah, I follow what you're saying there. Yeah, MJ, we got plenty of people. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate it. Genuinely. Clayton says, knowing Zito will somehow get McDavid. Oh, I mean, look, we could joke all we want, but, I mean, Edmonton's not going to – I can't imagine what the price for McDavid would be anyway. And that's where it all – honestly, that's kind of where Crosby fits a little bit. Because with that salary, if we can get Pittsburgh to take $2 million of it, we could make it work. But of course, like I said, the next year, somebody's got to play wing. Barkov, Crosby, Bennett, Lundell. Like, you're not putting any of those guys at 4C, right? What are we going to do? Have a fourth line of Bennett, Tkachuk, and Samoskevich? You know what I mean? Like, if you did that, Somebody's got to play wing. Who? Right? I guess you could move Crosby to wing if he wanted to. I don't know. Barkov, Crosby, and Reinhardt. I'm just saying, right? Vincent, yes, I know it's my fault. I already know it's my fault. What do you want? Oh, Simon, what's my opinion on when we play Chicago? I don't know, buddy. It's hard for me to think about that right now, other than the fact that the banner raising ceremony is going to be a little bit weird. It's going to be a little bit weird, man. Yeah. Is it 1 week? Yeah, it's like, about a week and a half. Oh, yeah, I know. We know McDavid isn't happening. We like to crack that joke here every once in a while. All right, MJ, appreciate you, buddy. Hungry says they can even take $2 million off. Well, it's 8.7, so 20% is about 1.7. So I think 25% would probably be just about $2 million. Hungry, I think so. Ish, right? Yeah, we don't have the assets to get Crosby. I mean, unless Crosby tells Pittsburgh trade me, but they have him under contract. I don't know. We're in imaginary delusion cope world right now. You know what I mean? With everything we're trying to figure out. Oh, hey, hold on a second. What's this? Holy crap! Thank you, Great White. Thank you, brother. Thank you, my friend. Holy crap! Thank you, man. He says, is Barkov's best days behind him? Hurt too many times. You know, that's an interesting question. And I will answer your question with my own question, because this is something I thought about earlier. And this is before I saw how Maurice was going to lay things out. But my question was, if they put Lundell at 1C and we still win the cup, when Barkov comes back, is he 1C or 2C? Because as much as we don't want to think about it, he's either 30 or going to be 30, and he'd be coming off a major knee injury. And if you take the emotion and the heart and everything out of it, and you just look at the physical player, Great White's question is valid. It is valid. And, you know, we got 2 cups. That's what I'll say, is we got 2 cups, and I still feel like we've got more in us. But that's a viable question, Great White. I don't think we'll know the answer until he comes back and we see him and everything like that. But the shift that he had last year, was it against the Blues? Is that the game that we saw? The shift that he won that game and basically in overtime. That type of Barkov, that level. If it's a full ACL, is he going to get back to that level, or is he going to be 97% of that? Because he's played a lot of hockey. He's hitting 30. And, you know, that's a very viable question, Great White. I don't think we'll know the answer, right, until we see him back on the ice. But certainly it's a fair question to ask, man. Dante says Sasha will be out there on crutches to watch the banner race. That's what I'm hoping for, yeah. Cruz, well, the Barkov thing, we're not sure when he's coming back. Foster says, I think we're 92 to 96 point team now, to be honest. How many points did we get last year? What was we weren't that far off of that last year, right? JC says if McDavid came to the Panthers, Canada would fall and require an entire regime change. Yeah, I want to watch that movie. Like I say, I know it's not going to happen in real life, but a movie about Barkov being hurt and Edmonton sending McDavid to Florida and him winning another couple cups. That's a good movie. That would be a fun movie to watch. Kazuma, most of 6 to 12 months, depending on what it is, right? Right. It's not impossible, Cody. That's for sure. Hey, thank you, MJ. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, brother. All right, let's see. Sports headlines. Our captain is injured. Who? Who are we talking about, MJ? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Lakers extend coach JJ Redick. Logan Paul sues company that sold him. MJ signed court. NCAA to put ads on college jerseys next year. Congrats on Cal Raleigh, 60 home runs. Damn, somebody check the ball. Yeah, well, what is the Logan Paul sues company that sold him? MJ signed court. What's that one, MJ? Thank you, brother. Adonis says when he comes back, I don't think it'll be close to a Landeskog situation where he had to get his cartilage to be replaced. Right. And that's the other thing. You know, the medical technology is constantly improving, right? Like we talked about with Aaron Rodgers coming back from that Achilles, like way completely different planet from back in the day when Marino had busted his Achilles and he came out for opening day and basically was dragging that leg behind him going, I can still play. And he could. That's the crazy thing. Craig says the doom and gloom is premature. Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. I see both sides, okay? It's Barkov, right? Any immediate reaction to Barkov being out, it's a valid reaction to be like, oh, well, geez, we're screwed, right? But when like I laid it out earlier, when you look at it like, okay, what do we still have on the ice, okay? You can make the argument against, still make the argument. Oh, there goes my camera again. There goes the camera again. Hold on a second. Let me fix this. The camera just randomly cuts out every once in a while for no reason. Let me see. Let me turn it back on. This really shouldn't happen. Here in a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Osmo, back. There we go. Okay. Every once in a while, the camera just decides it doesn't want to be connected. I have another one. I have the one that I use downstairs, but it's such a narrow view. The whole rest of the wall, you wouldn't be able to see the rest of the wall. Running. Hey, I wish that was the case, man. It's a freaking $400 Osmo action camera, and it just every once in a while randomly it says your browser's lost connection. Like it happens once a stream. It just I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? It's probably some stupid. The Windows did an update, so a couple weeks ago, and then this started. So who the hell knows, right? Ronnie, yeah, all this stuff malfunctions regularly, right? Yeah, you're just sitting here and your camera says deuces, right? You're like, what? I didn't even need a table or anything. Oh, I got another one here. Here we go. Hey, thank you, Ron. Thank you, bud. Thank you, Ron. Ron with my sentiments exactly. He says, I have absolute faith that Bill Zito and Paul Maurice will do what's best for this team. And there you go. Thank you, brother. All right, so somebody had told me, see, Heritage sells knockoff jerseys and claims they don't authenticate third-party items as they're just the host of the auctions of sale. Any company that does that is complacent in fraud, and I avoid getting anything. So you guys were explaining to me See, Kazuma explained it here. Paul filed an injunction against Heritage Auctions in Texas District Court Thursday, alleging authenticity concerns over a Michael Jordan signed piece of United Center floor that Paul won at auction. Gotcha. Hey, Running. Sorry to hear about the Barkov news. It creates some opportunities for other teams in the East. Yeah. I tell you, like I said in my video last night, I still feel like even without Barkov, it's not going to be pleasant, right? But if the rest of the team is healthy and we address the 3C position with somebody other than Rodriguez, I still feel like this team should make it back to the finals. Now, are we going to beat Colorado or Vegas? I don't know. I had my season preview all ready to go, and now, not so sure. But I think I'm going to stick with my prediction. I think that's going to be a test of test. I'm going to stick with what my original prediction was. All right, thank you, MJ. Trevor says, I'm still hopeful Barkov can come back for the playoffs. Same as me, man. Same as me. Running. You guys have Zito at the helm. No better guy in the business today. What a legend. No doubt. Look, we're over here talking about getting Crosby and joking about getting McDavid. And, the next trade will be he got Crosby and McDavid. You know what I mean? Like, obviously that's not going to happen. But like I said, if he's doing the surgery now, I really don't feel like if the surgeon comes out and says, yeah, no way, he's done, then whatever moves we're going to make, we might make sooner than later. But I still don't feel like we're going to make any moves until we see how the players we have perform. It just doesn't make any sense to do it any which other way unless something literally happens where, like, Sidney Crosby calls up the Penguins and is like, send me to Florida. Yeah, unless something like that happens, which is probably not going to happen. But absent that, I would just think Zito is just going to be like, we've got depth, we've got guys, let's sit back, let's watch how everybody plays, and then determine as the season goes on where we need the help. Because we will have some money. And it also could simply end up being where the surgeon comes out and says, I don't know. It could be 6 months. It could be 10. And we may not know until, February, whether or not how he's progressing, right? It could be a situation where it's like, look, we're going to send him over and get stem cell treatments and do all these crazy wackadoodle things that I happen to believe in. And then we won't know for a few months. And until then, what I would say is play Tarasov a lot. That's what I would say is play Tarasov a lot, because you're gonna need prime Bubba Brewski come playoff time. We're gonna need Columbus Blue Jackets against the Lightning Vasilevsky come playoff time. Don't leave that part out of the equation, that we still got Bobrovsky. And, Bobrovsky gets on a heater at the right time. You know what I mean? And if our defense isn't as good because Barkov is missing, but Bobrovsky doesn't allow the puck in the back of the net, the puck's not in the back of the net. Frank says, here's an idea. Can we trade back for Huberto? No, thank you. No, we're good. We're good, Frank. Kazuma, yeah, I can understand that. Colby, that's the other thing about Vasilevsky, right? We haven't seen him on the ice. Don't know what's going on there. Are you sure it's my fault, Vincent? Positive? Andrew, they're reporting that he's out for this season, but nobody's answering the question whether that's full season, regular season, playoffs. And what Katie Gauss said was Maurice will have an update later. He's in surgery right now. Barkov's in surgery right now. And so when Paul and Bill tell us what's up, that's what I'll believe. David says it's supposed to be difficult, but damn, man, of all the people to go down, right? Great White. So Reinhardt, he was a center. He doesn't prefer to play the center position. He can, and a lot of times you'll see him take the faceoffs even though Barkov is on the ice. So he's capable of doing it. But the way we put our lines out there today, it was Bennett with Reinhardt and Verhaeghe, and then the second line was Lundell, Lusteron, and Marchand. So I don't think you're going to see Reinhardt at center. He doesn't prefer to play that. And he's honestly so valuable at forward, especially now with no Barkov, no Tkachuk. We're going to need Reinhardt and Verhaeghe putting the puck in the back of the net. That's for sure. Real says, trade Mackey for Brady Tkachuk. Stop trying to trade Sam Miskevich. But like if there was a player that I might be willing to blink in terms of trading one guy for another, but I think Brady wants to win in Ottawa. I think he's proud of what they're building there. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. Yeah, Mike, that's one of the possibilities. Let me guess, Vincent, is my fault? Absolutely. Totally agree, man. Totally 100% agree, Vincent. Absolutely, Vincent. Vincent, for $10 million, I'll go away. Okay? If everybody that believes it's my fault, take up a collection, and for $10 million, I'll go away. You'll never see me again. No thanks. No Mackey for Montour, that's for sure. Yeah, Mike Zito's going to have to come out of the office for this one. Yep. Dante, I agree with you there. Hey, MJ, thank you, bud. Thank you, buddy. All right, let's see. World headlines. This is always good because this is where MJ is where I get my news from. It says ex-FBI Director James Comey indicted. UN delegates walked out of Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech. 911 outages in 3 different states. That's wild. Trump signs executive order declaring TikTok will be bought by an American buyer. Huh. That's interesting. Now, would Musk be considered an American buyer? Like, could he do it? That would be crazy. He would just buy it and shut it down, though, wouldn't he? Thank you again, MJ. Thank you, brother. Brady has a no trade clause. Yeah, I'm sure. Devils. Yeah, it's better to have them on the ice together than them playing against each other. They always try to kill each other. Don says, might even run 11 forwards and 7 defense at times. I hadn't thought of it that way. I don't think they would do that on a regular basis. See, now everything we were thinking now is just like is blown up in smoke because we've been wondering if the PTO guys could take over, because if we were going to have to get rid of Rodriguez or Boquist when Tkachuk comes back. But now everybody can stay and we can add guys. But then again, if they're thinking Barkov can come back for the playoffs, you really can't. You really can't add guys. And we would still be in a position, that's the craziness here, is that if Barkov's coming back for the playoffs, we're still in a position where before he comes back, and obviously before the deadline, we would need to move Rodriguez and maybe Boquist to get cap compliant if Barkov's coming back for the playoffs. So that's a whole nother consideration and complication, because if Rodriguez is centering that third line and Barkov's not coming back to the middle of April, and you have to move Rodriguez so you're compliant for the playoffs when Barkov comes back, that's a problem. That's a problem. I hadn't even thought about that till right now. It is going to be Bill Zito is going to have to earn his genius label. He is earning it now this year. It is a hell of a thing that he's going to have to go with. There were issues with fiber cables. Oh, that sucks. Mike said, yeah, 38-year-old Sidney Crosby, last chance to hoist the cup. Right. Yeah, we'd win 2 in a row. AT&T was primarily responsible. Gotcha, MJ. Oh, wait, what's that? They're trying to get ByteDance to sell TikTok. Right. They walked out because he proposed annihilating. The politics has become social media. I can't tell the difference between the two anymore, MJ. Yeah, I heard that he wants to turn the area of Gaza into a resort and a hotel. Is he not trolling people with that, though? Holy crap. Thank you, Great White. Thank you, brother. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. He says, who's my greatest Panther to date? Jovanovski's always at the top of that list for me. Just seeing a rookie just go all over the ice in 96, blasting people. That was just an incredible sight to see, man. Now, past that, you guys know I have an affinity for Billy Lindsay, obviously. But if you want to get more modern, Forsling's my guy. And I don't want to say why because I don't want to jinx it. But let's just say Forsling's my guy. I love that dude. I don't know if they've got 4 or 5 clones of him, but I remain convinced that you could watch Forsling blow up with a hand grenade on the ice, and they would just cart him back to the locker room, and then they would just bring out a whole brand new Forsling, and it'd be like nothing happened. That dude's crazy good. Past that, obviously, I'm a Lundell fan. He's going to get a chance to earn his stripes this year. And in the middle, in the dead years, I was never a big Weiss fan, but that one year the Fleischman, Weiss, and Versteeg line was fun to watch. But on top, if I had to put a top 3, Jovanovski, Luongo, and then Forsling. If you don't want to count goalies and you just want players, I can't really put Yager there because he wasn't here long enough, honestly, in my opinion, to count there. You know, maybe in terms of best, Barkov, obviously, but in terms of if we're talking favorites, a little bit different. But Barkov's got to go right there under Jovanovski if you're talking to, and of course Barkov was better than Jovanovski. If you're talking about actual best players on the ice, I think Barkov is the best that we've ever had, and I think that's what makes this so particularly difficult. Especially, there's a lot of new fans, right? Let's be honest. There's a lot of new fans, and I know it's hard to believe for some of the newer fans, but there were actually years where we didn't win the cup and make the playoffs. It used to happen all the time. We have proof. So it's a weird time now. Nearmac, yeah, we don't have to move Rodriguez right now. Right. Real says if we win the cup this year, Zito still won't win GM of the year somehow. Yeah, I like that one, man. Discarding Crosby, who can the Panthers realistically get? And that's what we've been looking at. Now, if you wanted to look, it's a good question. Let me look at this here. what about the guys? Because I was looking at who's going to be a free agent after this season. But what about guys with one more year of term, this year and next year? Maybe that'll make a difference. Let me share that screen and we'll look at that, because we're looking at Crosby and he's got 2 years. So what about guys that are going to be free agents after next year? Tyler Seguin, Mark Stone, Kucherov. Hey Tampa, what do you think? Huh? You guys might be done. Can you imagine how about Bennett with Kucherov and Kachuk? I'm just saying. Then there's Crosby, Logan Couture, DeBrincat, Detroit. The thing with these guys, let's look at some of the more middle of the road guys. Teravainen, Philip Denault, Josh Anderson, Middlestat, William Karlsson. Is there anybody that's down here towards the bottom that stands out? I mean, Macklin Celebrini, they don't have him signed yet. I heard of that guy. Niederreiter, he's getting old. I know nobody wants Barclay Goodrow. And then there's Erod. Erod's already 34 years old. And then Luosterainen. Don't forget we got to pay him. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a guy, to me, I'm looking for a guy that's going to give us an advantage at 3C, the way Lundell was giving us an advantage at 3C, because you still got Samoskevich and you got Kachuk coming back. So to me, you're not going to fill the Barkov hole. But the hole that we've created by moving Lundell up now, the hole is at 3C in terms of the advantage that we had on other teams. Now, if you're looking at what we could have, a team that's not a contender, again, Crosby, Couture, right? I don't think Detroit wants to move on from DeBrincat. And then you got, and Chris Kreider, he's not a center. It gets dicey. Alex Killorn. So when you start getting into names that you say, well, how much of an upgrade over Rodriguez at 3C? You know what I mean? At some point, it just becomes a question of, is it worth making the move? Now, Marchment was there. Yeah, I saw Marchment there, but he doesn't play center. So to me, right now, we don't know how these guys are going to perform, right? But to me, it just depends on how, everybody does at center. Now, Jim Bob says, for the new cap rules, you just can't bring in anyone. Well, that's true. That's true. Even if Barkov is out for the playoffs, I believe we get full relief if he's out for the entire season and playoffs. But if you're trading for somebody with term on his deal, then it's like with the Seth Jones thing. Now we got to deal with the fact that we owe him that money past the 1 year that we traded, right? Hey, thank you, MJ. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, MJ. What do we got? Hold on a second. Let's see what MJ's got here. He says, here's one. If the Panthers players or coaches opened their own restaurant, who would it be and what would be the name of it and what would be served? I think it would have to be the Rats, right? It would have to be the Rats. It would have to be a restaurant owned by Bennett, Kachuk, and Marchand. You would obviously have ice cream for dessert, and you would be selling mystery meat dishes, alluding to the possibility that, it might not be hamburger. You follow what I'm saying? I think, and you'd have rat in the name, right? You'd have rat in the name of the restaurant, and you got to have ice cream for dessert. Good question, MJ. Great White says, what's the Dolphins record going to be this year? Well, it ain't going to be what I said in my season preview. I think in my season preview, I put them at 9-8 or 8-9. Either one, I don't think they're getting that high. Ask me after the Jets game. If they play like they did against Buffalo, I think they might win 6 games. If they don't, they may have trouble winning 3. If you lose to the Jets, the wheels are just going to fall off the bus completely. So I think the Jets game is where you can either win 6 or 7 games, or it's just going to be a complete tank. David says it would have to be the rat's nest, and they could serve Canadian-Japanese fusion, right? So Jim Bob, yeah, if he's out for the regular and playoffs, they get full relief, right? So then the only consideration at that point is the guy, whoever we would be trading for, their salary next year. And again, I go all the way back to Bobrovsky and like, hey, Bubba, like if you're coming back, we might need to know now. If you're coming back and if you're going to take a pay cut or you're going to want your $10 million, we might need to know now. I know that you want to remain in your little bubble, and that's fine. We don't want to screw with that. But you're going to have to take the 5 minutes with your agent to kind of decide, because if we have to trade for somebody with term on their contract, that's going to affect the Bobrovsky extension, because we still, the cap is going to go up about $8.5 million. But we've got business to tend to. We've got guys to sign, especially for the 4th line, and you got to sign Nikola. So all that money is related to each other. And so, to me, I feel like before you go trading for somebody, if they're going to have a high salary, you kind of need to know what the deal with Bobrovsky is going to be. Does he want $10 million? Will he take 8? Will he take 7? Probably too low, but would you take 8? You take 2 by 8? Because those millions, that's going to add up. We got to pay Samoskevich too. Yeah, Rat's Nest, MJ. I like that. The Radical Rats, that's pretty good. Bob's Diner, that's a good one, MJ. Yeah, Ratatouille, but it's like that's like a name that's already like taken, right? Yeah, Bob cooking up Russian cuisine. Dante says Lundell would own a club on Los Olas. That's true. That's the true. Yeah, well, why don't we just have an international restaurant, right? We'll just call it Rats International, MJ. And then like Bob cooks up the Russian cuisine, Lundell Lustrainen cooks up the Swedish food, right? Yeah. And then, you got the Chucky Burger, right? You got, because he's the most American dude on the team, right? You have the Chucky Burger, right? Marchand would obviously be the Rat Burger. And with Bennett, what do you want to call it with Bennett? Bennett would have to have like, we got to have something dog related named after him, but you don't want it to really be like a food, right? You don't want to allude to that. But it can be done. Jim Bob says the problem with the new rules, you have to designate that immediately, and you can't change the decision even if it gets better. Oh, I did not know that, Jim Bob. Oh, wow. That complicates things even further. Thank you for that. So you can't even make the adjustment. Wow. So they have to make that when they place him on. Now, here's the question, Jim Bob. I guess temporarily, because we don't need to make any moves. So could they not put him on standard LTIR while they were taking the time to make the decision about LTIR? Because we're not in cap. We don't have any cap problems as long as Kachuk is out. We technically don't need the Barkov relief. So could they put him on just LTR while they're making that decision? Do you know if that's allowed? That's a good point you made. Swedish meatballs. Great white. Left wing rats. I like that. Yeah. What if they open up a Hooters type Panthers themed restaurant? I don't know how the Viola family would go for that. Viola seems kind of square there, right? Yeah, Rats International. Great White. I don't know. I don't think this is Bob's last year. I did, throw out the imaginary scenario that maybe if we won the third cup in a row, he might be like, deuces, I'm retired. But I think I still kind of feel like he's going to stick around. The Chucky Burger. Yeah. Marchand should cook up poutine, right? The Cats and Rads Diner. Reinhardt's Ravioli. I like that, MJ. Yeah. Strafosky with another good point. Marchand, I'm worried about Marchand being in the top 6, too much wear and tear. No disagreement there whatsoever. None whatsoever. But I don't see what choice we have right now. You're gonna need Rodriguez, Samoskevich, and Boquist to take a lot of minutes. Now, Boquist and Samoskevich got fresh legs, not a problem. Rodriguez, I don't know, but we're gonna need those guys to take on a lot of minutes because you're completely accurate there about especially Marchand. That was one of the things that Paul from the locker room talked to me about when we got Marchand, was that he felt he was better served on the third line than the second line. Oh, David, yeah. There was a truck stop in Eastern Oregon that had buffalo burgers with Canadian bacon. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, Trey says Elliott's getting his clicks today, eh? He also said Bennett was a Leaf. That's a good point. Trey makes a really good point, which is why I don't believe when Paul or Bill say it, that's what I'll believe. Hey, thank you, MJ. Thank you, bud. Thank you, buddy. He says, I got you going. Which NFL star would have their own food item? You'll go first. Josh Allen's Buffalo Wings. It's a good one. I'm thinking about the stinking Dolphins. I guess you could have Tua's Hawaiian rolls. You could have that, right? In terms of the Panthers, we got that. But yeah, which NFL star? Tua's Hawaiian rolls, right? I'm trying to think. Let me see who else. That's a good one though. Josh's Buffalo Wings. Tua's ahi tuna. That's actually better than mine, MJ. Yeah. Real. Tyreek steak, right? Real, you think the Dolphins are winning? I mean, they probably will. You know what I mean? Patrick Mahomes barbecue, a line of barbecue sauces. That would work too. Holy crap. Thank you, Great White. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Jeez. Thank you, guys. This is too much today. Amazing. Says, thank you, Jaws. Best Panthers channel. I appreciate that, man. It's kind of full circle. I kind of feel full circle here today, where I started the channel bitching and complaining and screaming about everything. And in 10 years' time, I've gotten to the point where no matter what happens, it's like, it's cool, man. We got this. You know what I mean? Like, I have videos on this channel where I was yelling and screaming about ticket prices and the fact that they were no longer giving out the paper tickets, and it was on our. That's how bad things got. To where now I'm like, yeah, we can still win the cup. Sure, why not? Like maybe that's age. I don't know. Thank you again, guys. Thank you, Gray White. Sleepy Ape says Pajot or Jordan Stahl are two players that fit the aggregate in salary. Yeah, that's a good but would Carolina move? Like, would Carolina help us? You know, and that's part of what I was looking at was like, where are the teams coming from? Can you imagine if Bill Zito was like, hey, Carolina, so you want to help us out? Like, I'm not so sure they're picking up our call. Mike McDaniel's fired fries. That's what we have to call him, MJ. Adam Lowry. Let me look at that. Let me look. Let's see. Yeah, well, he's I'm looking at his time on ice. He must be playing third line minutes, getting 15 minutes a night. Would Winnipeg move on from him? What's his contract? Thank you, Google, for hearing me. It's nice when Google listens to what you have to say and they bring it up for you. He is signed through that's it this year. This year his contract is cheap. That's for sure. That's a decent name. That's a decent name to look at. Maybe a third line guy. His face-off percentage looks decent, right? That's a good name. Now, whether or not Winnipeg would want to move on from him, that's a good name, Adam Lowry. I like that, Ape. That's a good one. That's and it's a Western Conference team. They may not want him, but that's good name. Good one to keep an eye on. Oh, really? You're talking about FSU. Gotcha. Oh no, Cuban. It's too soon. It's too soon, Cuban. Oh, real. I'm sorry, man. So Jim Bob says full relief requires a season-ending injury to receive full cap relief of an injured player's contract. The player must be designated as out for the rest of the regular season and playoffs. Gotcha. Cuban. Yeah, I've never seen Bob's Burgers, Simon. I've heard about it. I've heard it, but I've never watched. Never watched it. All right, one more. Thank you, MJ. Thank you, bud. He says one more. If Bill Zito, Reeve, and Paul Maurice had their own commercial, what would it be? Meaning, what would they endorse? Zito. What would Zito endorse? Like, what do they call those things where you learn a language? What's those the old cassette tapes, the CD where it's like a whole program where you like learn a different language, but he would have his own one of those for he would be a sponsor for like learning how to be a general manager. Now with Paul, I think Paul would like be like a like he would be like a meditative music. He would have a meditative music sponsorship because apparently when he goes away on vacation, all he does is just sit there and do nothing. That's what he says. So like he would have like he would be a sponsor or have a sponsor of a company that like does meditative music and just how to sit there and clear your mind and do nothing. Yeah, fired fries, MJ. Yeah, Zito, Men's Warehouse. That's a pretty good one. Dante says teams that won't do trade with the Panthers: Tampa, Carolina, Boston, Edmonton. Yeah. Hey, call up Calgary again. Zito could endorse Cadillacs, right? Paul Maurice glasses. That's pretty good. Rosetta Stone. Yeah. No, that's the one, MJ. Rosetta Stone. Yeah. Exactly, Jim Bob. Not sure how many teams are going to be willing to help us. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there, Great White. So Tofudo, he says, what are the expectations for Sam or Anton? So the way that they rolled it out at camp today was Bennett with Reinhart and Verhaeghe, and then they just took the whole Lundell, Lusterine, and Marchand line and just plopped as the second line. I think that's the best move. And then we had Rodriguez with Samoskevich and Boquist as the third line. And so to summarize everything, my feeling is if Barkov's going to miss the playoffs, I don't think we'll make any moves immediately until we see how all those pieces run together and how everybody's working together and where the need is, because we do get Tkachuk back, right? And so you don't know if the goal is going to be, which hole are you trying to fill? You're not filling Barkov's hole, but by moving Bennett up and Lundell up, you're creating a hole in the third line. And so the question is going to be are you going to try to get a 2C so you can move Lundell, Lusterine, and Marchand back to 3 and have the new 2C be with Tkachuk and Samoskevich? Or are you going to try to get a 3C? But then at that point, you still have the question about when Tkachuk comes back, where are you putting him? If you don't want to break up Lundell, Lusterine, and the Marchand, where are you putting Chucky when he comes back? So it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. But it's our mess, so we'll take it. Jim Bob says, yeah, the Penguins would probably trade you Crosby and ask for 3 first-round picks in return. Yeah, exactly. All right, everybody, I gotta roll. I gotta help Kyle do what he's doing, and we got to get moving with the rest of the day here. If we find out anything more official, obviously I'll have a video out later, and keep an eye on the community posts. I know it's the weekend, but it's possible we may do something tomorrow as we learn more about what's actually going to be going on. But, like I said yesterday in the video, I'll say it again. We're playing with all the house money. We got 2 cups right in a row. And I understand the effect of this loss. But you know what? Challenge accepted. We got 2 cups in the bank. So challenge accepted. Let's see what these guys can do. And you never know. We still may hear some good news that Barkov could come back at some point. And then we'll just go from there, right? We're still champs. Until we're not, we're still the defending Stanley Cup champs. All right, everybody. Thank you for all the love and support. Much, much, much appreciated. All the super chats, everything. And I'll either see you later. I'll see you soon. When Marie says it's only 2 weeks.